All right, Natalie Cloutier, welcome to the REI Diamond Show. How are you today?
I am great. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, glad you came. When I saw the podcast booking come through, do a little preliminary research, I was like, wow, this is an interesting one. We haven't really explored this topic, and not a lot of people are doing it or talking about it. Obviously,
Yep.
we're going to be talking about the build to rent for the folks listening in. And there's a lot of institutional money doing that, and people, that's what I thought when I saw the topic. Oh, it's, the institutional thing. No, it's not that. And I think the listener will be surprised. Before we jump into that, though, one of the other interesting fun facts here, I'm recording from Chicago and you're recording from?
Canada and Ottawa, so the capital of Canada.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I have some friends doing some development in Winnipeg right now,
Okay.
30, 40, 50-story building, something like that.
Oh, wow, nice.
With the university, I think in a partnership. It's a really cool project to watch these guys, last few years bringing it out of the ground. I
That's awesome.
digress.
I
Um,
don't do that.
Yeah, but I wouldn't belittle or, talk down. The things you're doing are very interesting, and I think they're relevant for what we have here, the audience. Um, let's start with the investment philosophy. If you had to distill your investment philosophy, your strategy down to like a single sentence, what would that be?
Lately, I've been using the BRRRR 2.0. So, if your audience is familiar with the BRRRR strategy that, of course, Brandon Turner coined, so the buy, renovate, refinance, and repeat, or whatever, I might be missing an R in there. So, I do the build, rent, refinance, and repeat. So, it's basically the same strategy. And what's really cool with it is that you can recycle capital endlessly to grow your portfolio and scale it to whatever amount of units you want to do.
And for the listener who haven't figured it out and didn't do the research, would you mind telling us sort of the origination evolution story, maybe using those photos on the wall behind you?
Yeah, for sure. So for those who are looking on YouTube, I have a couple pictures behind me of the houses we built. My mother-in-law likes to paint our projects. And so these are the first starter projects that we started with. And what's great with this strategy is that anybody can really start. Like we started at 19 years old with $0. We had no money. We had basic entry-level salaries graduating from college. And so we built our own house, which is this one here, the greenhouse here. We still live in it today. I'm sitting in it right now. And we house hacked, which I didn't know that was a thing back in the day, but we added a basement apartment to help supplement the income because, like I said, we had kind of crappy salaries, starting out. And so, yeah, we started with $0. We actually started by buying a basement unit condo right out of college just because that was the only thing we could afford. We bought it with like the CMHC first time buyer loan, which for you guys in the States, I think it's similar to an FHA loan where you go in with a really low down payment, but you kind of get a higher interest rate in exchange. So we were just excited that we were approved for a mortgage. But then, going in, you realize, oh, wait, the interest rate is like, it was about 6% plus the condo fees were adding up. As soon as we walked in, they were scheduled to go up. And then, you don't have a yard, you don't have a garage, and you're in a basement. So a few months in, we were very unhappy. And my parents sat us down and they're like, you know what? I'm going to get you in on the little family secret. And they told us about how you can build your own house for $0 down as long as you do some labor work, right? You get in there and you do some labor yourself to save the money. Um, so that's what we did. We built our house. Long story short, got a basement apartment, lived for a fraction of the cost of the mortgage, and then we got a HELOC and we found this very cheap lot local to us, and it was a problem lot that nobody wanted to buy. But we have a background when we studied architectural technology. That's where my husband and I met. So we're not architects, but we're like the CAD monkeys, if you will, or the draftsmen. And so we said, well, with our background, maybe we can make something happen with this lot. So we bought it with the HELOC and we built a little single family home that we eventually converted into a duplex and a couple years down the road, and which is this one here. I don't know if you see it with the glare. And then we kept going. We're like, you know what, this could be a recipe for a business. And eventually, after a couple years, we realized, wait a minute, this is investing. This is an investment strategy. So we kind of went in blindly.
So, um, you're getting ready to build the first house. I guess you found a piece of land. Do you remember what was going through your mind as far as like the fears or the hesitations as you were considering doing it? And maybe there weren't any because the family was like, "Ah, yeah, this is easy. We've done them 100 times, and no big
Oh,
thing."
no, so much fear. I actually remember the first day when the excavation, equipment was coming on site to come and clear the land, my husband threw up in the bushes because he was so nervous. So no, we were not confident in any way possible. Even when I told my husband about this, the strategy my mom talked to me about, I was trying to convince him, and we got into this huge fight because he was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not taking risks. He came from a family that never took this kind of risk. And it's funny because after we did one, he was the one pressuring me to do the next ones. But it's funny how that works. But yeah, so no, a lot of fear and a lot of doubt, but it definitely helped that we had my parents in our corner kind of working. Like they built 4 houses in 4 years before they had my sister and I, which was like 30 years prior, or 20 years prior to this house. So they had experience, but times change, right? And so they were nervous about it too a little bit, but they had also built my sister's house maybe 10 years before. I don't remember how many years before. So they were helping us through it. And so we had that guidance, but we knew that it was something we wanted to do because we were just really unhappy being in a basement condo, and we wanted to do more, right? So we did it anyway, and glad we did.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So the architectural background, having a mom with experience pushing you in this direction. Husband, what's the husband's name?
Rob.
So Rob's over there throwing up in the bushes.
Yeah.
I bet the listeners can relate. I know I certainly can, even though, I'm like 1,800 deals closed and tons of construction. And still, I feel not fear, but like the certain
This
anxiety.
anxiety, maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Because it's
Yeah.
like, we came through what, 2020 through 2023 with the inflation that happened, and a lot
Hmm.
of very sophisticated investors, companies, people who've been doing the business for 10, 15, 20, 25 years got jammed up, some to the point of bankruptcy from the cost overruns when lumber went from, I don't know what the numbers were, but it was like a 10x cost on just the lumber, let alone the labor and every other thing you're going to need. You can't stop halfway through.
No,
Was
you got
there,
to keep going.
yeah, was there a moment in the build, that same one, where some of that, okay, the excavator shows up, Rob's up chucking in the bushes. Was there another moment where you maybe like halfway through and maybe it's like being out on a rope bridge and you got like you're past the point of no return, or was that it when they were like doing the excavation?
I think that was it because once you get the ball rolling and you get working, you just kind of you get well for us anyways, especially when you're doing the actual physical work, you just kind of get into this work mode of survival mode of, we're in it. There you got to finish it. There's no turning back now. So you just kind of get into that grind mode and you keep going. Maybe there was a couple well, once we had to let go of our excavator, it wasn't working well. I had to hire another one. So
Mm.
we early on we kind of learned the ropes of managing trades and finding the good ones and the importance of all that. So it definitely had its stressful moments, but this was 10 years ago already, so it's getting a little blurry. We've definitely lived some scary moments since then in all of our other builds that I can say.
What was the toughest trade maybe that you have the most problems hiring and finding, or maybe just one of the toughest challenges you faced over that 10-year building cycle out of all these properties that might be like a pitfall for other people to look out for?
Yeah, so I can answer that's like kind of two separate questions. So first for the trade, I think one of the trades that we had the most problems finding was a good plumber because plumbing is tricky, right? You've always got working components with the water and stuff. That's the first issue, you like floods and leaks and stuff. So I think we went through 3 or 4, maybe 5 plumbers. Now we
Wow.
finally have a good one, but we're about to take a break for a year and kind of sit on our assets for a little while. So it sucks when you finally have built your team up for 10 years. And but yeah, I think plumbing was probably the trickiest one because then you have to do service calls during management, and then you want to make sure that they follow through on that. And in terms of like probably the hardship that we've lived was probably last year, and one of the reasons why we're taking a break now for a year. We're going to do a little bit of soul rejuvenation after that. But there's a lot of things going across the board, not just in Canada, not just in Ontario, but across the board. I think there's new bills in California and Wisconsin and stuff too that came up to incentivize affordable housing where
Hmm.
anything to help make affordable housing, help builders cut the red tape and just make the process faster and make it more affordable for people to get in and find rentals. And so in 2023 they did that. The province passed a bill where you could add a secondary dwelling unit to onto like an existing zoning. So if For example, I'm gonna make it, easy to understand. If you had a zoning where you were allowed to do like a single family home, you were allowed to add a basement apartment, let's just say. Now this new bill allowed you to add another apartment on top of that already allowed apartment. So if you have like this project here for the people looking, this used to be a duplex. We had there was no roof, there was no third floor. We ripped off the roof, we set it on the front lawn, built up a third unit, and then we put the roof back on when that bill passed in 2023. We doubled the income of that property. So that was one of the things we did with that bill. But the other thing we could do is that if you were allowed to do a semi-detached, and then you could add basement units with this bill, you could add other units on top, so making it into a sixplex, which saves you the development charges. You only pay development charges on the two main dwelling units. You don't pay them on the secondary apartments. So that was huge for us because in Ontario, the development charges are like $40,000 a main unit. Okay, so you're spending a lot of money. Like it would have been an $140,000 permit on a sixplex that we
Wow.
instead paid a fraction of that, right? But the problem we had, the encounter, the hardship we lived was that because this was all very new and this was the province's goals and not the municipality's goals. So the municipality is kind of influenced by the province, by the upper state, to follow these goals, but if they don't want to follow it, they don't have to. So, and of course, they're the ones missing out on these development charges. So if you're going in to build a sixplex that they would have otherwise had like $140,000 of income from that permit, and now they're only getting 60,000, they're not very happy about it, right? So, what happened? Because we were the first ones in applying for one of the first ones in applying for a sixplex in the area, they let it go with the pre-consultation. They were all okay with it. But then when it came time to actually release the permit, they had some time to do some internal policy changes and they decided to charge us the full amount. And so we were very unhappy about that because that skewed our numbers completely. The pricing from the start, the numbers from the start didn't make sense. So we had a long battle with the city. We got lawyers involved. We got the province's ministry involved. We got the leader of the city involved. Anyways, and we had to fight it out. And they kept saying, "No, we don't care. We don't care." Eventually, we went for an appeal in front of the city council, and that's where we won. We won our case, and we got credited at least 40,000 back, which was better than nothing. And so that actually took a toll on us because it was unexpected, and it's something that your listeners could kind of maybe learn from. You got to make sure that you've got all of these initial consultations with the municipalities in writing, in black and white, that you are allowed to do this, and that means something until you get your permit, right? Because there can be a significant amount of time between the time that you do your initial consultations and your studies to the time that you're actually ready to pick up your permit. Sorry, that was a long story, but I feel like it's worth mentioning.
100%. We love stories like this, Natalie, so I really appreciate the granular detail here. I think it's like extremely relevant and it highlights the development risk.
Yep.
So in a moment, we're going to take a look at some of the projects here on the screen for anyone listening. It's probably worth going and checking out the video to see the quality of the new construction. Kind of fills in the rest of the story and it's probably also justifies the aggravation and the risk to have this quality Class A asset when it's all said and done. Even if you had
Yeah.
to overpay for it by $100,000, if you ask 4 or 5, 10 years from now, that is going to be a superior product with higher rental rates than the existing stuff you could have bought that's 30, 40, 50, 70. In some of the areas where we invest 100, 150 years old.
Well, there you go. Yeah. And you just get a Class A tenant from the start too, which is great.
Yeah, for the new construction. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we run into that. We have a development project right now. I think we're going to go in for like 7 or 8 units and get that approved. And we have a developer who's going to take the project from us, assuming the approvals come. The neighborhood filed with the Historic Society to try to get it labeled as a historic house so that
Mm,
we couldn't tear that down. Historic Society is like, hey, this person uses this as a weapon. It's pretty common, tactic or technique. We don't see any historical value here. My fingers are crossed, right? And maybe by the
yeah.
time this is live, we've gotten our good news and we're at least one more step into the entitlement process toward getting it done. But these are the kind of things that you run into on a development. Like it's very common for a, 40, 50, 100, six-figure unexpected expense before you even get your permits, and that's where the risk comes in. And there's a certain amount of value that a developer can bring to the market when they bring a lot that's entitled and has a permit issued, and it's basically what we call shovel ready in the industry.
Hmm.
It's totally separate topic for another day, but worth
But at
touching
the same time, worth mentioning because yes, there is risk involved, but if you do your due diligence correctly and you go in with the right conditions before even going solid on your offer, then you can kind of you can mitigate that risk, right? There's always a way, but especially when you're doing larger development, then yes, it gets riskier because there's more studies involved. There's more contingencies you got to plan for. But if you stick to small multifamily, there's definitely a way to make it less risky, a lot less risky.
What's the price tag on that? So like we're doing some large 100 lot subdivisions right now, and our price tag is about 2 to 300,000 at least, sometimes 400,000 in soft cost, meaning the
Hmm.
engineering, the architecture, to
Yep.
figure out if we're going to get the answer from the municipality of yes, you can build and we have a project or not. What is that line item for you? You have a lot, you're going to build two, three, four units there, and you're in due diligence on your contract. So before you lose your earnest money and you got to perform, you have to pay how much to kind of get the answer whether or not it's a project you can go forward with.
So, okay, well, first of all, that's why we don't do development the way that you were explained it, right? Like the 100 lot
Okay.
development, we don't do
Yeah.
that, especially because of that. It's very high risk. You need a lot of capital. You need to fund it for a long time, and so we don't do it because of that. So we stick to infill projects where the lot is there, the services are there. Basically, you take something like a property in an urban area, you'll tear down a house maybe, and then you'll rebuild and take advantage of the zoning loopholes where you can densify a little bit more than just a single family home. And so before you even, let's say, before you even lift your conditions on your offer and you go firm on your offer, you probably only need a couple thousand because you just need to do maybe a soil test. You need to do like the conditions that I usually tell people to do is do a soil test, make sure your soil makes sense and that you're ready if there's unexpected, if you need a bigger foundation or whatever to support that soil. And you need a pre-consultation with the municipality. You need to make sure that they are in favor of the project you want to do. You want to be clear and upfront with them. And then you need your financing condition. So for the financing, you might need to hire a designer to get, at least a preliminary done. You don't have to have the full set of plans done, but you want to make sure that what you want to build fits on the lot. So if you want to do a sixplex, a fourplex, a triplex, you want to make sure that it fits within that infill project, that lot. So you might have to pay, I don't know, a couple thousand for that initial design. Probably not, probably just a few $100s. For us, we do the designs in-house because we studied architecture. I do the designs myself. So for us, it's just that soil test of $350 that we pay for, and
Okay.
that's it, right? So yeah, it depends on what kind of project you want to do, how big you want to go, and what you need for your conditions. If you're doing something bigger than a sixplex, then it usually falls into commercial lending. Then you might need environmental studies. Then that's a different ball game too. And then you might still be able to stay conditional on your offer until you can at least raise like phase one of that environmental study. So that might be a few more $1,000, but we've never had to do that yet. We try to stick to small multifamily because the numbers just work.
Yeah, and I think in the US the limit would be four. So 5 units and
Okay.
up in the US is commercial financing. Um, and four and under fits the owner occupant far
Yes.
easier to
Well,
um,
so it's the same thing here. It's just that when you go for six or more, you're still commercial lending, but it's just that's when the lender might ask for environmental studies. Whereas a fiveplex, a sixplex, you might still not need them yet, right? So it just
okay.
depends on the lender and their specific requirements for the number of units you're doing.
Yeah, we would hit that with five. With five
Okay.
units in the US, you
Okay.
you would definitely fall into that bucket. Let's take a look at some of these projects. We'll treat this like a case study here. Give me a moment. Um, so this is what I thought was cool. This is the Instagram page here. Nice brick facade. This is what a duplex we're looking at right now.
This is a triplex that we just finished building this year.
Okay, so you have a what two door entry on the front One of these.
Yeah, and then one you gotta go down a couple steps on the side of the building, and that gets you into like the basement walkout.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great looking building.
Yeah, those are like larger 3 bedroom, like 3 bath units. We actually have
Wow.
a 4 bedroom in that triplex. It's our biggest unit yet.
A 4 bedroom?
Yeah, 4 bedroom, 3 bath at the top unit.
Oh man. What does it cost to build this? I mean, I guess it's Canadian dollars, but we could do the
Right.
calculation.
Yeah, this one we did with a joint venture partner. So it was our first time with a joint venture. We're doing a sixplex with him as well. And so there's definitely more cash involved because we're making sure that all the duties and responsibilities are separate. And so, he takes care of money management, we take care of the actual construction. So we're paying ourselves a rate for each of those. Okay, so this one we're at I have to say about 750. I don't know the numbers exactly, but about 750,000. So what is that in American? Probably about 550.
Yeah, that's actually great.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and
It values at about 1 million.
nice. Is that based on cash flow typically an appraisal or comparable sales?
So they'll do all three approaches on your appraisal. They'll take the cost approach, the income approach, and the fair market value, and then they'll give you, well, sorry, not the fair market value, the comparison approach, and then they'll give you a fair market value with those three approaches. Depends on how much weight they want to put on each. So I actually like in my book that I wrote, I explain the appraisal process in detail, and it's about the same, I think, in the States. The process is very similar for new construction because I spoke to a couple people in the States and yeah, so then they'll just take like a general amount based on those three approaches.
Yeah, one strategy we saw in the city of Philadelphia, we have an office just outside of Philadelphia. A lot of the listeners are from that region. But they've had a pro development um, support, I guess, subsidy. So when you build new there, you get a 10-year tax abatement, and it didn't matter if it was in, the higher end area, the lower end area, et cetera. So one strategy that is employed is you could, but and the lots are small. We're talking like 600 square foot lot, 750 square foot lot, tiny
Yeah.
lots, but you could buy them very cheap in areas that were lower income, build a 6 unit building on, as long as it was a corner lot, build a 6 unit building, and then do like public housing and get an income based appraisal because there were no six flat comparable sales, and they could get all their cash back out. So his strategy, the guy I know who was doing this, was not to sell any of them, just keep recycling the cash kind of the same way
Yep.
that you did. I love this build particularly. A lot of long-term listeners probably have heard me say this before, but it's all about beds and baths when you're buying a rental property. It's like if you're going to house hack, go out, get the most bedrooms and most baths that you can because you're going to command the ability to rent to a family as opposed to one single person or a couple. If this was like a 1 bedroom, 1 bath kind of unit, 3 bedroom, 3 bath, now you've maybe got two, three roommates if you wanted to accept that who can afford a higher rent. Or maybe you have a family, a couple and two or three children who will probably make that a home and stick around a lot longer than someone who's a little more transient in the 1 bedroom units. And then over time, the higher rent, as it increases and inflation occurs, it just turns out to be a much bigger number that really moves the needle. It's like for me, how much dollar in rent can I get for each roof, each unit, because the maintenance cost there, if I had to have 10 units to make that certain rent versus maybe 3 units to make the same rent, now I only have maintenance costs on 3 units and not 10. So I love the three
Yeah.
bed, 3 bath strategy. Man, you put like a class A product out there that just has no competition.
Yeah, exactly. That's the goal. A lot of people here will stick to 2 bedrooms because it is easier to manage a tenant that way, right? When we're talking Airbnbs or short-term rentals, then that's where people maximize bedrooms typically. And then for like long-term rentals, a lot of the local builders here will stick to 2 bedrooms. Also because sometimes that's what fits the most on a lot. So
Hmm.
I try to when I'm designing the spaces, I try to maximize it as much as I can, just because, like you said, it gives you a broader range or broader shot at the market.
Yeah, there's just less competition. That's cool that you're the designer, so you're the one who sat down and made these decisions, right?
Yeah, exactly. I designed the whole footprint and the outside and all that. So I have a lot of fun with it. That's the part I like doing the most. So the one right so this one is a sixplex that we did. This is the one we had the whole fun with the city council for the where they owed us 40,000. This one is a sixplex, loved it. This one is more of an in a rural area. We had to do a septic field for that one. A
Okay.
little bit lower rents, but still 3 bedrooms, 1 bath.
So 3 bed, 1 bath. And what is the rent there on this?
These are 1965 and we include the internet for 40 bucks. Technically, it's like it's more like 1925 and then for 40 bucks more they get the internet included. We just put like a the Elon Musk dish at the top there. What's that
Oh,
called?
because it's literally that rural?
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. Bell services stops right before this building. This is actually something that a hiccup that we learned only after during the build. We thought we weren't going to get internet at this building, and we were freaking out. We're like,
Oh
people need
man.
internet more than they need water these days. What are we going to do? And so yeah, Bell was like, yeah, like it's there. It's just that to get it, it stops right before your driveway. So to get it to you, it'll be like $30,000. We're like, screw you, Bell. So we got
Is it Starlink?
yeah, it's Starlink. That's the word I was looking for. I'm like the Elon Musk dish. But yeah, we got Starlink instead, and we got a tech guy to wire the units, and we put one dish at the roof, and it feeds all 6 units.
So this is from April 28th, the picture that we're looking at. Do you have 6 tenants now living in this building? six
I
months later?
do. Yes.
Have you had any complaints about the Wi-Fi?
No, there was one day that they said it was a little slow, but I think it's because it was a day, it was like a Sunday, and so everybody was using it. It just happened like that. Our tech guy said if everybody's at home using it at once, which is usually rare, like most people are out and about, there's not like not all six are there at once. And so like we have people doing night shifts and stuff, so it's it doesn't always happen that way. But yeah, it only happened. We had one complaint once from one tenant. I didn't hear from the other five, so.
Yeah, yeah, they probably did deal with it. We live in a condo building. There's 450 units in our building.
Oh,
It's like a city, but the
wow.
internet is often slow, and that's why I was wondering, maybe I'll have to get a Starlink dish and put it on the balcony railing out here or something.
Yeah, we love it. I mean, my husband's parents, they have a cottage very rural. It's like no man's land. They don't even pay taxes. It's really in the middle of the woods.
Wow.
And they never had internet for their 50 years of owning that cottage. And now they finally got a Starlink dish and they're all excited. They're texting us from the cottage.
How about that?
Yeah.
Very cool. So, couple things here. Class A tenants, we talked about, the investment philosophy and the buy to rent and all that kind of thing. Has that evolved at all? It sounds like you guys just build to rent right from the very beginning. So I'm curious if there's any evolution around your strategy in the way that you invest over the past like 4 or 5 years, maybe.
Well, I mean, we definitely grew our business. We grew our team. We were just my husband and I doing work around the clock, right? We started with a Ford Focus and we were strapping lumber on top of the Focus on the roof and that kind of thing. And we were working 40, 50 hours a week and then working nights and evenings, nights and weekends on our builds. So we didn't have much of a childhood, or not a childhood, but starting off as a couple. And then eventually now, we have a full grown business. There was some hiccups, obviously, and with the COVID and everything, with the high prices, the lumber skyrocketing, and the interest rate skyrocketing. But the fact that I think we just always stuck to our core value of staying under leverage. I think that's the like most important thing that you can do is to remain under leverage throughout your journey because when shit like this happens, like interest rates skyrocketing, COVID and all that nonsense, we kept our heads above water. We had cash flow, positive cash flow in each of our properties. There's not one like, and in Canada too, for a lot of Americans, they don't know this, but in Canada, we have to actually renew our interest rate every 3 to 5 years. Like
Mm.
you can lock your rate for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but never more than five. Some places, some lenders apparently will do 10, but I've never lived that. So you guys are very lucky that you can lock in a rate for 25, 30 years. That blows my mind. The first time I heard that, I was like, what? So we don't do that. And so for us, where everybody, there's a lot of renewal rates in 2023 when the interest rates were spiking, or had spiked. And so people were going from 3% rates to 6%. And so a lot of people were cash flow negative and barely holding on to their investment properties. There was a lot of sales too. So we managed to stay afloat in all of them. We had a little less cash flow for a few of them. But because we stayed under leverage, when we finish a build, we try to stay within the 70% loan to ratio value. So we don't, like a lot of builders will try to maximize the loan so that they can pull out as much cash as possible, right? So we usually try to stay we try to stay moderate with that, and we'll pull out maybe 40, 50,000 if we can, great. Sometimes less than that, and then we recycle that into the next project, but we make sure that we're below the 80% as much as possible. So I think we didn't change our perception that much of the build to rent. I think the industry changed around us, but because we stuck to like being more risk averted, I guess, or risk, mitigating that risk, it helped us a lot. I don't know if that answers your question though. Is that what you were asking?
No, that's spot on, right? It's like
Okay.
how does it evolve? I mean, maybe you kind of did it by default in the beginning, but there is a temptation for investors to milk the cash cow and go to
Hmm.
the bank to take the money out. And I watched a lot of people go belly up in 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, and that was the strategy. I remember this one guy, he used to like I had a closing, right? And we go out to dinner, a nice restaurant, and he's popping champagne and everything. And so tell me about the closing. Yeah, we did this and this, and we did a refinance and got 90 grand. I'm like, dude, this is not a celebration. You didn't make a profit. It's not sold and in the books here. You owe that 90 grand.
Yeah. You
This
got to
is
make sure you can pay that back with high rents and, low
correct.
interest rates. So,
Yeah, house of
uh,
cards. Yeah. So, yeah, there's definitely for me being on the lower leverage side, I think is a critical and important piece. Class
mhm.
A tenants. Was it a deliberate choice? Did it happen by accident? And maybe some advice on people who are dealing with Class C, and maybe highlighting a few of the differences, if you wouldn't mind.
So I luckily do not have a lot of experience with Class C. So I'm very happy about that. I can't really compare the two. I've had some tenants that gave us problems, right? I definitely have a list of those. But I think that just came with experience of not vetting correctly. So in the beginning, sometimes we were just nervous building our first properties and we're like, oh my God, like the first person who came up and was ready to rent, we would do like the soft check, but we were like, oh, they're just ready to rent. We know we'll be able to cover the mortgage. We're good. Let's do it. And so we had issues with those tenants specifically, but that was in the first few years. I think the biggest piece of advice I can give people is, and I tell this to everybody now when I'm, doing coaching calls or whatever, I tell them make sure you take the emotions out of the equation at all time. Like there's no room for that in business. You got to be backed up by data, numbers. And so when you're vetting someone, like if you can't find a good tenant that passes all of your criteria, you're better off keeping the place empty for a month or two until you find that right person. Because being stuck with, especially in Ontario, where it's impossible to get rid of a bad tenant, like the tenant board is
Mm.
not on your side, you want to make absolutely sure that you're not getting tenants where they'll cause you issues, right? Because that's just, I've lived it and it's not fun. So I think just vetting as much as possible, calling references is probably more important than just checking documents. I think that calling references and making and asking the tough questions and actually speaking on the phone with them, not just, you know, getting a letter, because anybody can type up a letter. You want to catch the person in their lies kind of thing. And if you can do that, if you can vet someone and then create systems where, oh, like the biggest piece that I should say, and I probably should be keeping some of this for my book, but the biggest thing that I tell people is don't give your phone number for day-to-day communication. That is for emergencies only. And even that, if the house is on fire, they call 911. If there's a toilet clog, they should still be able to send you an email, and they should know with your processes in place that they have to shut off the water, wait for a plumber to come, like they like call an emergency plumber or something like that. So there's always a way to go around keeping it systematized and keeping your sanity, if you will.
So on the calling references, are these past landlords, personal friends, and maybe you have a specific interesting question that you asked and a specific answer that then led you to take a pass on that tenant?
Yeah, I have my list of questions. I have a lot of documents that I share through my book. So if people want to check that out, I don't want to make it like a sales pitch, but it's just that all of the resources are there. And I share all of my templates that I created and that I got from other people too. And so there's a list of for the questions in there, but I would say, I don't know if there's like a trick question. I think it's mostly what I'll do is I'll ask for their photo ID. And if the
I
ad
want an interesting one. I want gossip right now. I don't want strategies and tactics. I want, holy shit, I can't believe this lady answered that way about this tenant. This tenant's insane. We're not taking this person.
Well, I actually have, there's a video on my Instagram that went viral when I shared that. I think I had like 5 million views. I was like, holy crap. But what happened with this guy, I caught him in a lie. He was applying and he had put a bunch of references. And when I called these references, I called them first and I just asked them, is this person a good person? And then I would ask them to confirm the address where he rented and the amount. And so that was kind of, they weren't sure. And then they acted like they had a lot of tenants and they couldn't remember on top of their head. That's usually kind of a yellow flag for me to dig deeper. And so I had my realtor license back then, which I don't have anymore because I don't have time for it. But I would check through the realtor database and I would check with the address that he given me and the name of the owner, and then it wouldn't match. And so I actually called those people back after checking and I asked them more specific questions. And I said, the owner of this property is listed as, whatever, Tom and Jerry is who is this? And then they would be like, oh, okay. Well, it's because I'm more of a friend, and then they got caught in the lie, and I realized that these references were not legit references. And I think there was something his pay stub even he had written. There was some stuff written in pencil, so I don't know if he had like highlighted some stuff out like white out, and then would he wrote on top. So I was just
Wow.
a big red flag, and I told them I'm so sorry, but you have not been accepted.
Yeah, no
So
kidding.
that's
I love
yeah.
that. I love that underwriting technique there to verify the address and owner. I don't know about Canada, but here in the States, most counties, you can go in and see the owner as public information. You can see who actually owns the property. And then even if it were held in an LLC, you can, in a lot of the states, not all of them, go see who some of the managing members were there. So I love that, calling the past landlord and, yeah, what was the address and what was the rent? It kind of gives you this little signal that you can then go check on. And for me, it's like if it doesn't match up, unless I really, really wanted that tenant bad, I'm probably like not needing a whole hell of a lot more, evidence. It's like I got that bad gut feeling, like it's a pass, right?
Exactly. And with
Yeah.
experience, you like you said, you have that feeling, you get to know what you're looking for, and you get some similar cases where you can compare and you're like, "Oh, this sounds like this case. I don't want to." You have a bad feeling, you just don't touch it. But I definitely don't want family or friends as references because that means nothing to me. So it's got to be a professional type of reference. I usually ask two references per applicant. So one from a past landlord. If you've rented more than once in the past 5 years, then I want all of those references. I want to speak to each landlord in at least the last 5 years, plus an employer. So a minimum of two references per person.
Nice. Um, so what's next? I kind of know what's next a little bit, what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
A lot of listeners maybe are on the front end and you collect a few rentals and you have this goal of getting to a certain number of rentals and maybe having some level of freedom in life. Um, from our previous conversation before we hit record, I know that was sort of a little bit of why you have been with Rob building these assets. So what's going to happen in the next, I don't know, 6 to 12 months, or maybe even the next 5 years for you, Natalie?
So, yeah, our goal initially was we didn't really have a specific goal, but we knew that we wanted to build as much cash flow and equity from the least amount of properties or units as possible. We don't want to have to manage a huge portfolio if we can stick to, it's all about replacing that income and having a freedom, freedom kind of lifestyle. So right now we started from zero. Now our portfolio is consists of about 40 units, which is $13 million of value. And so we're very happy with that. We had this past year with the city and the lawyers and all that whole fight for the 40,000. It kind of put us under like we needed a break. And so we realized too that the strategy with everything that's going on and the municipality revamping their policies and now they're upping the development charges by 83%, which is insane. We decided
Wow.
yeah, it was already 40,000. Now it's going to be like 80,000 or whatever for a single family home. So we decided we're going to sit back, we're going to relax, we're going to see checking with what's happening too with tariffs and everything across our border, right? Okay. We're gonna see what's happening there too, and then we just needed to break some soul rejuvenation. So we have a full-time staff right now. We have three people full-time. They know we're gonna be letting them go after this sixplex that we're building now, which when this one is done. They're going to take temporary contracts somewhere else, and hopefully we'll be able to take them back in 6 to 12 months and maybe build up the business again, maybe do something different, maybe we don't know. And so it's actually kind of exciting for my husband has a bit of anxiety with that idea of not knowing what we're going to do next because we always had another project lined up. For me, I'm excited. To me, it's going to be Project Us. What do we want to do? How can we improve our health, our lifestyle, our relationship, our marriage, our relationship as parents with our kids? I want to travel. I want to just chill. I want to chill and I want to, bask in the assets that we've built in the past 10 years. And I think it's exciting that we get to do that and we get to kind of pick what's next. So I don't even know what's in 5 years right now. For the past 10 years, I would have told Joe we want to get to this amount of cash flow, of equity, blah, blah, blah. And now I don't know. And I love it. I love not knowing. I love just, we're going to go with the flow and see what happens.
Yeah, I hate the 5-year question
Yeah, I
personally.
do too.
Yeah, I will continue to ask it because it feels like the kind of thing that a lot of people want to know the answer to. But when people ask me, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, well, I'm gonna like focus right now. I'm focused on, managing the team that I have built and managing our deal flow. And like, I have no idea where we'll be in 5 years, not this grand goal of XYZ income or what have you.
Yeah.
And regarding the sabbatical that you and your family are taking, I think that's very cool. And I have quite a few friends in the commercial real estate space who had backgrounds similar to yours and mine, built up this momentum and got to this place where a level of freedom is an option for them. And
Mhm.
the one buddy that I'm thinking of now, his pictures from the Grand Tetons, and he bought an RV and he put Starlink on the roof of that, which is why I know the name of Starlink for Elon, right? And he's driving across the country and out in Yellowstone Park and the rest of them. I think he's been like this is 6 to 9 months now, this road trip, and there's at least 6 to 9 months coming soon. And he's
Good
not
for
the only
him.
one.
Yeah, good for him. That's the kind of life I want to do too. I mean, it sucks now. My kid just started school, so now he's in school. It's like, okay, we finally have the freedom, but now he doesn't. So we're right now we're kind of stuck in that jam of what we're gonna do. But we bought a cottage about an hour and a half that we Airbnb out, but we still love for ourselves too. So we go there very often on weekends and stuff. And then we're gonna be taking him out of school for several weeks this year, no matter what. I don't care. It's just kindergarten. We're gonna be traveling.
Nice. Yeah, one of the tips I guess I picked up from them because we're considering the that aspect of the family again. I have a grown daughter, remarried, and we're considering you know, children again.
Oh
Uh,
wow, nice.
it's a very serious plan, so God willing that will, come to fruition. But we looking at, the education options, and um, we went to school at a
Hmm.
place for 9 months, a year, right? That's
Hmm.
kind of how my wife and I both did it. And we like took a glance at some of the like sort of homeschooling options.
Yeah.
And what that led us to was that there's quite a few of these like apps that are probably more effective than teachers can be at teaching them those specific, how to read or what the mathematics are, whatever the case is, if the kid is able to sit there and kind of pay attention to that. So I haven't
Yeah.
landed on one or the other. I'm probably still 90% in the camp of like physical school and how I did it because that's just how it's done. But I am open to the possibility that maybe there's a better way coming down the pike here.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a
you
whole
know,
shift happening in the States, especially a lot of people are going towards homeschooling, and it's very interesting. It's a very interesting option if you have the patience as a parent to actually follow through with it, which I do not.
yeah,
So
that's
that's the
fair.
that's the problem, right?
And I can talk all this shit now, but like
Yeah.
when he
Once
and
you're
she or
actually in
whoever's
it,
here, yeah,
yeah,
different story.
exactly. You'd have to live it to actually know if you can do it.
Yeah, there is that, freedom for the 6, 8 hours when the kids go to school. So, another
Absolutely.
form of freedom, right?
Yes, yes. It's time for
Cool.
yourself.
So I have a final question I ask all of my guests, but before we get to that point, I normally ask for book recommendations, and I'm going to
Mhm.
have you talk about your own. And if there's any others that were like really impactful and you feel like
Yeah.
me or the listeners, feel free to mention them, but don't feel obligated to, throw a couple titles out. So would you
Yeah.
mind elaborating on the build to rent strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just finished writing it. I'm still in my soft launch kind of thing where I'm just kind of collecting reviews. So it's 50% off right now if you want to get a copy. It's the time. Well, I don't know when, it depends on when this is launched. It's going to go up in price mid-October. But when this episode airs, I mean. But yeah, so it's called The Build to Rent Strategy, a guide to a successful rental construction. And so it helps people understand the basics. It can help anybody who's never done it before, just how to even build your own house, how to house hack. I've got numbers in there. I've got links to templates for budgets and stuff, and just understand the math behind it and the construction draws and how the math works. If you need to get like private lender to help you get started for a commercial property or whatever. There's a lot of details. I also have a lot of a whole chapter dedicated for DIY landlords. So I think it helps, the small scale investors. It can also help people who have done. Like it could be a larger scale investor who have always done renovations and now they want to look into construction, right? It can help with that. But another book that I guess I would recommend in Canada, but I think that this book helps like the States too because it's very broad, but it's called the secrets to the Canadian real estate cycle. And so we talked about, staying under leveraged, and that's one of the concepts that I took from that book when I read it. I read it just before COVID. So I was happy I read it because
Wow.
I kind of had my mindset at how to mitigate the portfolio and how to make sure that we were going to live through it. And so I'm happy I read it, and I read it a second time when rates started to go up again, and I think it's a really good book to read, and it applies to it's the real estate cycle in general. So even though it has the word Canadian in it, it applies to the Americans as well. And then a third book is the Dan Sullivan 10X book. I liked it because as a mom entrepreneur with, a young baby, and we were growing the business with getting full-time people, and we were really growing in terms of like doing 3 builds in 1 year. And so it helped me kind of manage my time and have like focus days, buffer days, relax days. So I really like that book for that. For if there's anybody else out there who's wants to start an investment business and are young parents, that book can help manage your time.
Yeah, and it is a business, whether you're going to buy rentals, build rentals,
Oh
flip
yeah.
houses, it's a
As soon as you
business.
have one rental, it's a business. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. How much is the build to rent strategy when it's going to be full priced?
So, oh, okay, so I don't know the conversion in US. In Canada, it's going to be aimed at 24.99. So it's still cheaper for you guys. I think it might still
Yeah.
be under 20 bucks. Might have to bring up the price just so that you guys pay 25.
Yeah, yeah,
No, no.
definitely, 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
The value proposition in a book, this is why I ask about books on every podcast, but it's like for 25 bucks you're getting how many hours did it take you to put this together?
Oh, it took me 2 years.
Yeah, could you imagine like paying someone to sit down or taking even phone
Yeah,
calls, right? Like, am I going to
I
have like
know.
150 phone calls to
And
extract
it's
this?
so hard to just even get somebody to review the book. I'm like, it'll take you 60 seconds. Just write like a two-liner and just say that it helped you or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to just do that. But yeah, no, I understand too because I think the issue is that there's so much noise out there these days. You go on Instagram, there's just ads, all up pop-ups. Everybody's trying to sell something. So you get to a point where your brain's like you're just overloaded with information, and so it's hard to pick which one is worth your 25 bucks, so I understand people, I get it.
Yeah, and I would even suggest the book. I'm going to guess, but is the soundproofing technique listed in
Yes.
here?
Yes, I have a video on my Instagram that I posted a few months ago, but it's there, and yeah, I break all that down. I talk about, managing construction, the soundproofing composition that we use, and a few different alternatives, the different building systems, yeah, I think.
Yeah, anyone who's going to build like the design and the details in design, you
Hmm.
cannot just pass that to the architect. You have to understand why these design decisions are important, why you need them, where to pay for the money. So, I
Yeah.
mean,
And as
that
a
that's
designer who Yeah, and
Yeah,
as a designer who designs rental properties, I put in a chapter about that too, where if you're going in, like, yes, it's easy for me because I design them, I know what I want, but for other people who have to communicate that to a designer, they have to make sure that they give them clear instructions, right? So that they can follow and actually do it the way I'm thinking.
yeah, I can't wait to order the book. You've got me excited.
Yay.
Is there anywhere else that listeners can go? Contact information, website, something of that nature?
Yeah, I have my website, thenewbuildcouple.com, and I'm also on Instagram at thenewbuildcouple.com. I also have a Facebook, but I never go on Facebook, so it's not really updated. There's not a big following there. Most of my stuff is on Instagram. But yeah, if you go on my website, there's the links to both books, like US link and Canadian link. And you can send me a message through that website too. I'm very responsive.
All right. And my final question, what is the kindest thing anyone has done for you, Natalie?
I saw that in your show notes and I listened to another episode before. I was like, I don't know what to say to that. Do people always have an answer for that question? I'm like, I can't think of one thing, one specific thing. Like I can think of a bunch of little things. I don't know what to say. I think I might have to pass that question. Like I need to come back to that because I read the show notes like an hour before. So I need to come back to that question. Give me time. Maybe we can plug it into your editing.
All right, fair enough. That worked. That's good, right? And I think it's good when people are kind of looking out for us, and we certainly have had some of these moments along the way. I know I have. Um,
Yeah, tell me what's the kindest thing someone's ever done for you?
I think it would have to be mom and dad. I know it sounds like
Ah,
a short answer or an easy go-to, but especially my dad when I was first starting the business, he kind of had this vision for real estate and like paid for these seminars. I Part of why I harped on the value of the book is I didn't find, books of that nature. We paid like five, 10, $15,000 for something called like Millionaire University, and we got around a bunch of people. This is before podcast, YouTube, and that kind of thing,
right.
2006. But my dad was like an HVAC guy, right? He just retired, so it's not like he had money and he like put that on a credit card. He didn't have the money to pay off, so he took that
Oh,
kind of advance and he pushed. I'm like, oh man, we can't afford this. We're done. He's, oh no, you're going. And he like pushed me and paid for me to do it. And then like he actually kind of took a back seat. So that was a
yeah.
really cool moment that certainly helped to springboard my career in real estate.
That's awesome. I'd probably go with a similar answer of how I just always had the support of my parents. And it wouldn't be one specific act. It would just be, you know, they're my people. So I get
Yeah,
that.
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
100%. Well, Natalie, I have pages of notes. Great topic. Very interesting, cool portfolio that you've built. I'm happy that you wrote the book, and I'm looking forward to checking it out. And I appreciate you coming on the show.
I appreciate you having me and talking about all this stuff. Let's do it again sometime.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the REI Diamonds Show with Dan Breslin. To receive email notifications of new weekly episodes, sign up at www.reidiamonds.com.